Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Hassaballa. I am here live in the ICU, coming to you with another episode of the Healthcare Musings podcast. Glad to have you with us. So, today we're going to talk about Diet Coke. Now, for decades, um, drank almost exclusively Diet Coke. Sometimes water, sometimes tea, all the time coffee, but Diet Coke was my go-to drink, and it was not uncommon for me to drink 12 cans a day. Right? I loved the taste. It did not have any sugar, and when I was hungry, I would drink a can of Diet Coke, and it would allow me to decrease my caloric intake. For the past year, however, I've stopped doing that. I've stopped consuming any um, drink with aspartame or sucralose. And I'm not going to lie, I miss it. There's a lot of places that I go, a lot of parties to which I go, restaurants where they don't have many other options besides Diet Coke, or other than water, which sometimes I just don't want water. Perhaps they want iced tea, and sometimes I don't want iced tea. Still, however, I remain steadfast. I really have not gone back to it as much as I miss it. And this has nothing to do with the recent World Health Organization classification of aspartame, which is the main non nutritive sweetener in Diet Coke, that says it is possibly, quote, possibly carcinogenic to humans. I was never worried about getting cancer from an artificial sweetener. I mean, the studies in which they had rats that developed cancer, they gave them doses of artificial sweetener, non-nutritive sweeteners that were just way more than any regular, typical human would consume. The reason I stopped, however, was because of the effect of aspartame on my microbiome. So what's the microbiome? The microbiome is the collection of the billions upon billions of bacteria that reside normally in our gut. In the past, we just thought it was just something that we had, and it did not affect our health. I think recent research has borne this to be not true. In fact, that research has shown that the microbiome exerts a very real effect on our health, such as glucose metabolism, glucose intolerance, and even appetite and weight gain. Um, and in fact, some research suggests that the microbiome may have a link to our mental health. And I think the research in this area is only beginning. For me personally, I was concerned that the bacteria in my gut were consuming the aspartame that I was drinking, adding to my coffee and tea as well, and it was affecting my overall well-being. And while the research is all over the place, like there are some studies that show no effect of non-nutritive sweeteners on glucose metabolism, and in fact, when I would get blood tests, there would be no issues with my serum fasting glucose, thank God. And then there are other studies, however, that show that artificial sweeteners can contribute to weight gain. Um, and there is increasing evidence that the microbiome definitely interacts with non nutritive sweeteners that we are consuming, and it may have an effect on our health. Now, whether or not this leads to cancer is unclear. In fact, when the World Health Organization declared aspartame as, quote, possibly carcinogenic, a related body said that despite this, a 150-pound individual can safely consume a 12-pack of Diet Coke without any risk. So very annoyingly confusing. And what is it? It's very difficult to say. All of that having been said, I think with my own study, an N of 1, that's me, it showed that when I stopped consuming aspartame and sucralose for the most part, for the overwhelming majority of what I drink, it did have an effect on my health. I actually lost a little bit of weight. Now I am consuming beverages containing stevia, and I'm adding stevia and allulose, a newer non-nutritive natural sweetener, uh, because for me, it definitely had a positive effect when I stopped consuming aspartame and sucralose. Now, could later research show that stevia is detrimental? Yes, of course. So far, it's working for me, and that's what I'm going with. And again, that's the main message we should take away from this. Not everyone is going to be affected adversely by non-nutritive sweeteners. I see a lot of people drinking Diet Coke, and they do just fine. And sometimes I'm a little jealous because I really do miss it. At the same time, for others, it could be detrimental. and we need to understand how it affects us and individually make our own choices. So that's all I have to say about Diet Coke. Thank you very much for listening and for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.